All right, next up, does black privilege exist? Q, you want to take this one? You want me to go first?
Go for it.
All right.
Throw me the alley oop every time.
um, okay. I'm going to approach this question as though I'm in a room full of people that assume that black privilege does exist. Okay. Um, I will acknowledge that there are some things that come along with being male that provide some privilege, right? There are some things that come along with there's privileges wherever you look, wherever you see. So I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe it's relative, right? Um, to a person who is white, it's easier to say, what are you talking about? Black privilege. That's insulting. But to a person who is, Cambodian, at present in this country, they might not have the numbers, the sense of community. Of course, there's Cambodian people, of course, but not to the degree that black people have. There's a lot more safe spaces for black people to go. There's a lot more bargaining that black people as a community are able to do with respect to the government and so forth. And at least at minimum, there's a voice, right? For Cambodian peoples that may not be true to the same degree. And I don't mean to pick on Cambodian people, but it's just a group that popped into my head. But this would be true for a number of groups, right? So it's relative, right? So to people that look at black people from that vantage point, they could look at black people and say, oh, you guys have black privilege. And of course, white people have white privilege. I have nothing. There's no history of my people here, significant history of my people. There's no, So I want to make sure that I see that up front. But I want to also say that based on the things that we tend to measure as a society, things that we identify as markers to success, right? I cannot envision, conceive of, conjure, imagine anything that would give you even the capacity to start at zero when it comes to chasing those goals that we set aside as a society to say, accomplishing these things mean you're successful. Failure to accomplish these things mean that you're less successful, right? And if anything, if there is any opportunity, it usually exists in the ways of maybe opportunity is not the right word, but propensity, likelihood, that sort of thing. Usually it exists and it's pointed in a decidedly negative direction. In other words, the propensity to become a dropout or teenage pregnancy or, caught up in the carceral system, right? So wherever there are these, they're not advantages. What's the word I would use? Increased likelihood. And whenever you find increased likelihoods for black people, typically it's something that's negative. And so it's hard for me to fix my mouth to say to one group that black privilege exists, but to another group, I could understand how they could see it relative to their station in life and say, well, shoot, you guys have a lot more that you're working with than we do, right? And I want to say while I'm here, before I turn it over to you, Q, because I want to make sure you have a long runway here. When we talk about white privilege, one of the things that I established a long time ago, I'll say we established it, is that white privilege is not being born and having like a bunch of extra stuff. It's not like you're born and you got an account with your name on it and $1 million in it and everybody gets a golden key to the city and blah, blah, blah. It's not white privilege. White privilege is the benefit of being able to start at the starting line, being able to start at zero and run a fair race. And to a black person that often is born with, black skin, let's call that a strike against you. If you're a black woman, it's two strikes against you. If you're a black gay woman, it's a much tougher race to run. You're not starting at zero. You're starting behind the starting line. And then, it can get more complicated from there. Were you born poor? Were you, born in this environment versus that environment? Whatever. You might have hurdles on your race, whereas the person born at zero and gets to run a fair race, born at the starting line, they don't have those same hurdles, right? And so this is how we envision white privilege. So the privilege is getting to start at zero. So once you kind of reorient it around that, because the language of white privilege, I think it throws some white folks off. But once you reorient your thinking around what it really truly is, it typically is a little bit more easier for more people to process. Q, your thoughts.
Rams, the first time I saw black privilege in a way that stands out to me was on the cover of Charlamagne's book.
Yeah.
And it was jarring to me, triggering almost.
Uh-huh.
But what's wild is it really depends on who's saying it.
Okay.
Because it can have very different meanings, right?
Okay.
So when some people say black privilege, I don't think they mean it the way that they mean white privilege, the same way black power and white power are not antonyms. They're not equal and opposite. They're two very different things.
Sure. Yeah, I go with that.
Black people it's more like survival, self-worth. It's like a reaffirmation, just like black excellence and black power. So when you grow up in a society where whiteness is the default for everything, beauty standards, measures of intelligence, gateways to opportunities, I think we come up with our own counter programming just to stay mentally and psychologically whole. So like black girl magic and black joy and black excellence and even black privilege. It's a deeper conversation that we'll have to have another day, because the rest of Charlamagne's title talks about opportunities come when you create them, as if that's all black people need to do. And we know it's a much deeper conversation than that. So I'll table that. We'll put a pin in it. But that's not privilege. It's almost therapy, or like black identity repair in real time. Like, we've been devalued our whole lives. How do we reaffirm ourselves? Now, on the other side of this, you have people who use the term black privilege as a way to deny white privilege, or to pretend that racism is now somehow running in reverse. And that makes me crazy. Yeah. So it's like an avoidance thing, like you said, for those who are not where they feel they should be, where I don't have any privilege. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. It just means you weren't born behind the obstacles that we have to overcome daily.
Yeah.
White privilege is real, and it is across every measurable system in this country. Then admitting that means you have to confront some very uncomfortable truths and acknowledge that you benefit from a system that doesn't make you earn everything. And for a lot of people, that's uncomfortable. So comparing feelings to facts, white discomfort to black oppression as a comparison is really ridiculous, but that's what we're witnessing in real time. Two very completely different things happening. So when black people say black privilege, sometimes I think it's satire. Sometimes I think it's like an absurdity intentionally holding a mirror up to the fragility of some white people. Like, yeah, being followed in the store and pulled over must be our privilege, right? You know what I mean? Like turning that into a joke so that we don't scream. Yeah. But, when other people say it, 9 times out of 10, they're trying to flip a conversation and kind of ignore a system that's still in place that they want to pretend went away. So this is a more nuanced conversation than we have enough time to have. Yeah. But black privilege in my mind is more like a psychological mental resistance thing than an actual thing in real life.